Rob Thomas with Club and Resort Business, and welcome to another episode of Club and Resort Talks. Today's episode is sponsored by JBD JGA Design and Architecture. Since its founding by Judd Brown and Steve McMahon in 1983, JBD JGA Design and Architecture, formerly known as Judd Brown Designs and Jefferson Group Architecture, has successfully completed an impressive array of design projects for private clubs throughout the United States. Their experienced staff of more than 25 design professionals has completed a multitude of award-winning architectural and interior design projects, including golf clubs, country clubs, and city clubs. Learn more at www.jbd-jga.com. With that out of the way, let's introduce you to Phil Keren. Phil, how's it going?
It's going well, Rob. How are you?
Terrific. No complaints. As we all know, Phil is our senior editor. Phil, what have you been seeing on clubandresortbusiness.com of late?
A lot of good stuff this as of late, and actually kind of on a theme of the we've talked before about the short courses that are coming up, that are cropping up more around the country. And actually this week saw stories about three different ones, and two out of the three we've actually covered quite a bit here at clubandresortbusiness.com. For one, at Streamsong Golf Resort in Bowling Green, Florida, they're about to now have all 19 holes of their short course, which is called the Chain. It's going to open for a preview play at the end of March here, March 31st. 3,000-yard course, and of course, designed. It's a Core and Crenshaw design. Of course, Ben Crenshaw, the great Masters champion, involved with that. So the the 13 holes, it started back in November of last year. And now we're up to the 19 holes. The holes are going to vary in length from 50 yards to 100 to 300 plus yards. Encourage sort of match play formats, because there's actually no suggested par in the scorecard, which I think is interesting. And of course, also the other aspect of some of these short courses is that they don't have tee markers. So you can kind of decide where you want to tee off from, which of course even allows you to play kind of multiple rounds, and you can, as you go through, you tee off from a different place as you're going through. And I think it's a great idea, great concept. I know I was able to speak with the folks out there late 2022 and early 2023 when they were kind of getting the project going, and it looks like it'll be great.
Yeah, Core, I believe one of his quotes had something to do along with you take strength out of the equation. In distance, you don't have to bomb 300-yard drives to enjoy yourself around a golf, around the Chain, or any of these par 3 courses or short courses. It's a lot of fun. And like you said, you can just, they take a stake or whatever. Hey, this is where we're playing this hole. It might be 75 yards. Next time you come around, might be 125 yards. I mean, they're still both really short holes, but they're totally different once you swap a yardage out. So that's exciting. And Streamsong, obviously the stuff that I've done in Central Florida, which was, I mean, I don't want to say nothing. I don't want to disparage the land, but there was just nothing there before. And all of a sudden now you have this rolling topography and at a beautiful, beautiful resort with 3, now 4 championship or beautiful golf courses, 3 championship golf courses, and then this Chain, the short course. So it sounds like a lot of fun going on there in Central Florida.
Yeah, definitely. And I recall talking with the folks there at Streamsong that really, obviously, this is the kind of setup now where a group could go on a nice golf trip, enjoy all those, as you mentioned, championship courses out there at Streamsong. And then the Chain here, this short course, could probably be something like either a pre-round warm-up, or it could be a post-round wrap-up. I don't know if I want other words to call it. Something fun to do, kind of have a friendly competition. And yeah, kind of also, I know I've never been a long hitter. I'm more of a short game person, kind of evens the playing field for players like me who are more short game people, because I grew up playing on a par 3 course myself. So that was where my strength lies and always has. So makes for a fun thing for golfers of all stripes.
Yeah, no, it's tough. Pinehurst, they have a beautiful new little short course. Talked about a couple there in Branson, Missouri. It's huge right now. It's big business, little course, big business. It's terrific. I love it. Doesn't take nearly as much land to put together, and it's not nearly as much time. So less land, less time, just as much fun.
Absolutely. And on that theme, we had another story this week on Killer and Club, also in Florida. We're in Tallahassee now, Tallahassee, Florida. They're working on constructing a 9-hole Clover golf course that will be a mix of 5 par 3s, 4 short par 4 holes. They're working on that project right now, expected to be finished in May. McCurrich Golf Construction of Jacksonville continues working on the project with AquaTurf International. So they're going to have, as I mentioned, the setup of the assortment of the par 3 and par 4 holes. It will be a walking only course though. Projected about hour to an hour and a half round. 3 tees at each hole. So that way, again, if you wanted to do an 18-hole thing and you go through twice and tee off at a different place each time, and they'll set up with narrow tree line fairways that'll require a precise iron play. So again, for players who aren't long off the tee, they don't have to worry about that in this circumstance here. So another great course to see that one coming through, though people can watch for that here in middle of spring.
I love these alternate options out there. A 550-yard par 5 can be a little intimidating, especially for a beginning golfer. You know, these pros, it's a driver wedge now for these guys. But for you and I, 550 yards is still a test. For a beginning golfer, 550 yards is daunting. So to have a bunch of 3s and 4s out there, much more manageable and nice entry level to entry into golf.
Absolutely. And then we did have one other one I wanted to mention. This is kind of neat because I've always enjoyed history, and this has a historical aspect to it. Called a Battlefield par 3 course at Shangri-La Resort in Monkey Island, Oklahoma. It's actually been open for several months. We featured a story with the course architect, Tom Clark, talking about what he's done there. It is a 3,000-yard, 18-hole par 54 layout, so par 3 course. The cool thing, though, is that it actually, each hole on what's called the Battlefield course is named in honor of a Oklahoma veteran of World War II. So World War II veteran from that state is honored there with it. And it looks like a great setup for golf. Again, to that point about people starting out in the game. As Tom Clark was saying in the story we featured, typically you set up a golf course with 6 easy pins, 6 medium, and 6 hard pins. And so he's tried to do that with this course as well. And as I understand it, kind of with like the longer hole, like a 230-yard hole, the green will be fairly easy, flat. The short one, the 80-yard hole, you're going to have some more slopes and ridges to deal with, a little more challenge there to kind of, make up for the fact that the hole itself is short to play from. But I like that. I really like that. That's probably my favorite one to feature of those 3 today, just because of the historical aspect. I think that's a unique idea to honor people who had served in World War II from that state. While people are playing golf, they can kind of have that appreciation for it while they're enjoying their round.
And the fact that it's in Monkey Island, I mean, come on, Monkey Island, that sounds like a great place to be, unless you're confusing it with Kong Island or Skull Island, right? Which is certainly pretty intimidating. And Shangri-La Resort, boy, that's got everything covered right there.
It does.
In the pictures on the website, the golf course looks fantastic, beautiful. Certainly not your flat little par 3 course that I grew up, Twin Oaks in Austinburg, Ohio, which is just like, a goat track, quite literally. This is just a spectacle. Love it. It was a conversation, Q&A with Tom Clark that's on the website, clubresortbusiness.com. Get there and read it. It's a lot of good information and eye candy. That golf course has beautiful holes.
It does. It's very picturesque, and that's always adds something to it to play on a course like that has that beauty and the memorable sights and aesthetics on the course that adds a little more to it, in addition to the fun challenge of trying to make par each time.
And Oklahoma too. I mean, Oklahoma's pretty flat. I'm sure Tom Clark moved quite a bit of dirt to get it. So, beautiful uphill holes, downhill holes, water, beautiful floral. So, I mean, he did a lot on that piece of property.
Yeah, he absolutely did. And I think it's going to do well out there, because I think that's between the look of it and the historical aspect of it, kind of makes it unique. Seems like you see where there's great potential for all skill levels of golfers to enjoy it for sure.
Hey, before we get to our guest, who is Jonathan Fralick from Invited Clubs, I want to touch upon what we did last week, right? We had a lot of fun in Las Vegas. Who doesn't have fun in Las Vegas, right? Unless you lose your shirt. I'm not a gambler, so I didn't have to worry about that. But
Right.
what were your thoughts of our trip out to the Mandalay Bay?
Yes, the Mandalay Bay Resort and Conference Center. We were there for the CMA World Conference and Club Business Expo in Las Vegas. Had a great time in a short visit. The weather was great, sunny in the 60s, very comfortable. I had a chance to visit with a lot of business leaders during the expo, and I've shared a lot of those already via LinkedIn. Just a couple of companies to mention: St. Nick's Christmas Lighting and Decor, Holtzman Group, WizKid Products, Deggy Entertainment, Mighty Light, Earth Networks, Outdoor Lighting Perspectives, and Automate. Had a chance to visit with folks from all that. Also, the Idea Fair was a lot of fun. I didn't have a lot of time to walk through that, but what I saw of it, saw a familiar club there, Country Club of Buffalo, had their display about their Sporting Clays Invitational. It's been very successful now, where they've had multiple clubs engage in a friendly competition, clays competition there and on their property. I've actually interviewed them, a couple of folks from there about that. A couple other unique ones for people in the northern part of the country. Detroit Athletic Club had an adult dodgeball tournament. It had like more than 60 members participating. Also, other clubs participating in that one too. And Great Oaks Country Club in Rochester, Michigan, which isn't too far from Detroit. They started a dart league, which I thought was an interesting idea. More than 130 members participating in that. Dart leagues, I guess, usually tend to cater to people who are high level or expert level players. This was set up in a format that was easy to understand. I guess it was similar to like a 9-inning baseball game, and people of all levels were able to participate in that. But yeah, there was a lot of great stuff out there. It's always enjoyable to get to meet people in person, put names and faces together. It was great to meet new people, and also actually had a chance to reconnect with some people I've met before in person. So a lot of fun out there in Las Vegas.
Well, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
That's right.
If you're familiar with Dodgeball movie.
Classic.
I
Yeah.
hope you're not dodging too many darts. But
Right.
yeah, read about those. I'm sure we're going to be talking a lot about those two and so many others in our June ideas issue. So that's something to look forward to. I know I had a good time. I spent a lot of time with the Capstone hospitality team.
Yes.
Tyler, Kyle, Ben, Brian, the big boss couldn't make it. He just had he and his wife just had their second child, so he wasn't there in Las Vegas. But so much the Whoosh people stopped by our happy hour. We talked to them, the relay team. There are a lot of people that you and I visited, and like you said, we posted already. I think I've posted 10 videos now on LinkedIn. You posted a bunch already as well.
Yeah. About 6 or
Just little
7.
booth visits, little 30-second minute elevator pitches. What are you doing here at the show? So a lot to look forward to. We'll get all those together in a big compilation video and put those on our website at some point if you don't happen to be active on LinkedIn. But a lot of stuff going on. And with that said, I want to talk a little bit about Jonathan Fralick, who's the VP of Racquet Sports for Invited Clubs. He talked about what Invited is doing for growing the game, not only with at the youth level, but also people like you and I, maybe adults who are getting into pickleball, maybe people who are returning to tennis or whatever. You and I are always talking about a rising tide lifts all ship, and now pickleball is growing, and it's
Yep.
taking other racket sports, squash, paddle, platform tennis, everything with it. So that's one of the things we talked about, and inclusivity, diversity, a lot of stuff that he and I talked about. We had a little technical difficulty, so I did some creative editing. You'll see that part where I'm just kind of looking at the camera. I've scrunched it down to a minimal point, so it's not too awkward, but something to look forward to, right? Little behind the scenes look, because I'm
Yeah.
not a great editor, but boy, I'll tell you what, I think I did the best I could possibly do. So look forward to Jonathan Fralick. Phil, Thank you for your time today, and I hope everybody enjoys their weekend. Hello, welcome back to the podcast, and I want to introduce you to our newest guest. It's Jonathan Fralick. He's the VP of Racquet Sports for Invited Clubs. Jonathan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Jonathan, if you could, real quick, could you please give us a little background on you? How did you get to this point in your career?
Absolutely. So I came up through the coaching, and I was primarily a junior coach, and then I made the decision to start managing facilities. So went to work for Lifetime, and then when invited, they sourced me out of Lifetime to come run for what was Sequoia Clubs that invited, which was Club Corp purchased about 11 years ago. So for the last 11 years, I've worked for what was Club Corp, which is now Invited, and I ran the Southeast region up until 2.5 years ago. 2.5 years ago, they created this position of the National Director for Racquet Sports. It's since morphed into VP of Racquet Sports, and now I have the responsibility to oversee 65 of our clubs.
And there's a lot of courts in those 65 clubs, I would imagine.
Yeah, we've got over 700 tennis courts. We've got over 350 pickleball courts. We've got padel being installed in Dallas. We've got squash. We've got paddle. So yeah, we are very vested in racket and paddle sports.
That's terrific. That kind of leads me into my next question. Phil and I are always talking about a rising tide lifts all ships. Like golf, tennis wasn't necessarily on the rise. When I grew up in the 70s, 80s, it was huge. McEnroe, Connors, went to Sampras and Agassi, and then I mean, you name it, right? The Williams sisters, obviously. It's kind of fallen down a little bit as golf did. COVID bumped golf up, and I believe pickleball which is huge. It's still massive. And that's kind of lifting everything else up as well, right? I mean, you're seeing a bump in tennis, you're seeing a bump in squash, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Every outdoor racket or paddle sport is growing. COVID was a wonderful thing for pickleball. Remember, it basically went from a very small footprint. You know, everybody was looking for an exercise to do. It was growing, and the flip side of that is tennis is growing as well. I think tennis has built some good programs again to start, reinvigorating, growing the game. And I know pickleball is growing exponentially. I mean, I don't know anybody in the industry that can actually define exactly what catapulted pickleball to where it is. I mean, it went from 0 to 100 overnight.
Yeah, I mean, it's nuts. It's been a crazy meteoric rise, obviously. We're always talking about in golf growing the game of golf, and that same holds true for rackets. As big as it is, I'm sure you in your position would like to see it continue to grow, getting bigger. You've had a couple of things in your career, first serve and right start programs for getting kids and adults into rackets. Can you describe a little bit of that process?
Yeah, absolutely. So we branded within Invited Clubs, we branded a 12 and under program to grow the game, right? It's called First Serve. It is strictly for juniors from ages 6 to 12. Each of our clubs runs that program. Obviously, lesson plans and the way that they, offer the programs are going to vary from club to club, market to market. But that is our junior development program to grow numbers for our members. We've got the Right Start, which is our entry level adult program. Some clubs call it Tennis 101 or whatever. So we call that the Right Start. Our clubs are expected to run it 4 times annually to make sure. So we're running it every quarter. We're using it to repopulate teams, and we're using it to repopulate adult tennis. And then what we have coming down the road here pretty soon is what's called First Pickle. And that is our branded pickleball approach in the youth space, which is pretty untapped right now. I know there's some youth taking lessons, right? Kids are taking some lessons, but the whole comprehensive pathway for youth pickleball players is relatively new. So I think we're going to be kind of level setting and really drive this First Pickle. It looks like it's going to launch May 1st throughout all of our clubs.
Now, hey, I'm what you call kind of a fallen angel when it comes to the church. I was an altar boy as a kid, used to go to church. I stopped going to church. Church would love to get me back into church. Putting that now onto tennis, I played high school tennis, used to play in an adult league. I've fallen out of the tennis circles. Do you have programs designed for adults who used to play not a high level, but a fairly high level, and you're trying to bring them back into the fold?
Back into tennis.
Back into tennis, back into racket sports in general. So I think we lost you, but you're back. If you could, where we lost you, I was mentioning the fact that I'm a fallen angel. How are you bringing adults that have played tennis in the past back into the sport? Tennis, pickleball, paddle, squash, whatever.
Yeah, so that is a focus. So what we've tried to do is create some programs, and some of our programs actually are a blend between pickleball and tennis for our members, especially in the older set, right? Because a lot of the tennis players have either physically or have aged out of tennis, in their opinion. So they've gravitated more to pickleball. But there's a lot of our seniors that have actually want to play with their friends, so they play pickleball, but they still want to play tennis. So we want to make sure that we've got programs for both. So we run a lot of mixers and social events that are kind of lateral. You'll have pickleball on half of it, and you'll have tennis on the other half, and that's kind of how we bridge the gap.
So I had mentioned that I mean I missed the whole wooden racket stuff there, but I was in the early, I don't know, steel, aluminum, whatever the early next phase was. And still serve and volley, wasn't a ton of baseline. Now it's all power, right? Big serves, 130, 140 miles an hour coming at you hard, and very little serve and volley. Even on the clay courts, it's changed. Where do you see technology changing it for the average Joe? Is it making a difference? Is it making it easier, I'd imagine?
Yeah, I think so. I think the technology's helping. I think making sure, like in the tennis space, making sure they have the proper strings in their rackets. I think a lot of the times I think we can do a better job of educating our member and the consumer on what product that they should be swinging and what string should be in their racket. I think it's going to help with the enjoyment because it's going to pull off some of the joints and some of the tennis elbow, as well as, the rackets are getting a little bit lighter, so they're getting more maneuverable for the seniors. In the pickleball space, right, you've got the new OWL pickleball, which is that silent technology that they have out there. And now I'm starting to see pickleball paddle that have different lengths in their handles. So you're starting to see, technologies coming into pickleball pretty aggressive. Racquet, because like our national partnerships with Technofiber and their technologies is very advanced. But now you're starting to see the technology come into how the paddle is shaped, how the surface is, what's the swing weight, why is there, there's a gap like in the Selkirk in the middle of the throat. So we're seeing technology. I think we're still figuring out which technology is here to stay. But yes, it is all being built for player enjoyment for all levels. Being that pickleball started as being, a senior citizen event, it is no longer a senior citizen sport. I mean, it spans across all ages.
Yeah, that was the catchphrase when it first came out, like top growing 55 and over sport, right? But now, I mean, they're playing it in middle school. My kids are playing it out in the driveway. You go down to any club and people are out, all ages. So fantastic for pickleball. It's not just for us old folks, 55 and up. It's for everybody. That's terrific.
Absolutely.
So
Agreed.
speaking to everybody, inclusivity is it's a buzzword, right? Tennis, the club that I most recently belonged to was okay. The clothing, the dress was all white, right? You had to have 90% white, but it seemed like the membership was even more percentage white, right? So there wasn't a ton of diversity in tennis, at least at the level that I saw. What is Invited doing to introduce more, I don't know, I mean, inner city, or bringing some people in that maybe haven't been introduced to country club sports in the past?
Yeah, I think we're doing a good job in our clubs, right? Our programs are inclusive. We don't have any separation there. A lot of my directors volunteer for the USTA. A lot of them are involved in community development. I've got one that sits on the chair for junior comp. So we're involved at the industry level on making sure that we're breaking down some of these barriers. I know that we have some relationships with some athletes. With Donald Young plays at one of our former clubs. So we have done a good job of integrating for all. And that's the way our programs are built. That's the way our clubs are built. So it's not the country club space of the late 70s, early 80s. Our clubs are, our fitness, our wellness division is rapidly expanding. Racquet Sports are rapidly expanding. You're seeing a lot of our non-golf categories growing additional players that haven't been there in the past.
Yeah, I guess that's an unfair question because I mean, clubs are clubs. I mean, wherever you're at, it's a different location, different demographic. And it's terrific that that Invited is doing at the entry level. I mean, that's tomorrow's members, right? Today's kids are tomorrow's dues paying members, and it's great that Invited and your pros are down at the grassroots level. So here's a question for you. I'll
Yeah,
get you
but
out on this one.
it's a. I mean, we're very involved in. Yep.
Crystal ball time. If you could look into your crystal ball, if you had this power 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, what are you seeing in the industry that maybe some trends that we haven't seen yet?
So I think pickleball is here to stay. I think it is a dynamic in the recreation space forever. I think it brings a lot to the table. But Dell is moving so aggressively forward right now. We're starting to entertain it. We're installed in Dallas at Brookhaven. We've got another couple clubs that we've targeted for time. But I think Padel, it's a sport that came from Europe. I think Padel is going to start showing growth. Nothing's going to show the same growth as pickleball, but Padel is going to grow. I think you're going to also start seeing. I think you're going to see more pickleball players gravitating to tennis. I think you're going to see tennis players gravitating to pickleball. And I think it's going to be more of a racket paddle experience at our clubs, where it's Tuesday we're playing pickle, Wednesday we're playing tennis, Thursday we're playing padel, Friday we have our league match, we have dinner at the club Saturday night, we have dinner at the club Wednesday night. So I think you're going to see that these non-golf categories, these racket sports, paddle sports categories, they're going to actually start working as one. And I think, there's some love-hate out there with pickleball and tennis. That's starting to go away, which is great. Padel's coming in, it's a little bit more of an advanced skill set. So you're going to have some younger, very international sport. So I think you're going to start spanning across all of our demographics because we're going to have pickleball, which everyone can play. Tennis, 65% of our membership can play tennis. And then you're going to have 45% of our membership that's going to want to play padel.
That we're talking about Padel, and Padel obviously requires a little more infrastructure, correct? It's not as easy to convert a tennis court into pickleball courts as it is also, Padel requires the glass walls and all that kind of stuff that goes into it. But Invited is getting into paddle as we goes on.
We're installing in Brookhaven in late March. So we're going to have 2 courts at Brookhaven, and then we are looking at the West Coast, and we're looking at a couple clubs in Atlanta. What's interesting about the padel is it literally is in a trailer, and they just assemble it right on site. So the new courts are built in America, so they're able to manufacture them quicker because there isn't the shipping time. So it's about a 6-day install. So we will be installing on the 23rd, and we're expecting to be playing by April 1st. The lighting is a little bit easier because you're not using the 30-foot LED lights. Everything's connected to the court, and it turnkeys to 220. So it's a little bit easier to install when it comes to the lighting. And then the surface, you can play on it after it rains. You can play pretty quick because everything drains off, and it's kind of fan-based. So there isn't going to be as much downtime after it rains, squeegee and puddles, like we have on our pickle and tennis courts.
Yeah, that's terrific. And I'm seeing a lot of now at the club level, a lot more directors of rackets, right? So no longer, you're not seeing the tennis director as much as you are. Maybe there is a tennis director or tennis pros underneath the director of rackets, right? So we're seeing an umbrella of somebody who's certified in all of these categories. So it's not such a specialized program anymore. It's massive.
Yeah, absolutely. So we made the decision about 2 years ago that we were going to change the terminology from director of tennis to director of racket sports. We made the decision in our delivery. We certified every single of our directors with USPTA for tennis, and we certified every single with PPR for pickleball. So all of my directors, 65 directors, are both certified in both of those sports. As we enter into Padel, we'll then certify our teams on Padel. But our goal with Invited is to have in the delivery of these sports as we can be in the industry.
All right, fantastic. Jonathan, thank you very much for joining us here on the podcast. And I look forward to seeing what the future holds for Invited in the clubs in the racket space.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Rob. Have a great day.